I've wandered on many ideas. Part of it's because I know the subject so intimately. Part of it's because I understand truth radiates in all directions. So if I help people to see more angles of truth, then maybe they can flesh out the shape of the nugget that I'm trying to refer to. And the other is I'm being criminally tortured. My torture started 1,398 days ago. My criminal torture started 1,398 days ago. Because here in Summit County, Ohio, there's this magical place where your federal rights and your state rights don't exist. And I mean, they don't exist so much so that the courthouse is willing to make a matter of court record that they did nothing but break one rule after another rule after another rule. They don't behave as a court, they behave as a witch hunt. Courts require evidence. Court has a burden of evidence. Court, you're innocent until proven guilty. In domestic court, the reason it's a witch hunt is the opinion of the court is an auctionable, a purchasable thing as long as you hire the judge's top campaign donor. You want Judge Cook to do whatever it is you want, then you should be calling up Randall Lowry, because Randall Lowry has given that court more money through the years in campaign donations. And after all, the whole reason he can make all that money is but not just from illegally extorting it from the families, but of course he's got to kick it back to the judge in campaign donations. So the judge gets tax-free money that she can pretty much do whatever she wants with. So after all, why would she slow that down? See, when this country was created, the idea was our government was going to be healthy because it was going to be fearful of its people. People that spoke, people that had a relationship with God, and nothing comes between them and how they choose to relate to God. That they're going to be free to speak about anything that they'd like in any manner that they'd like. That we're going to have a press that doesn't serve the advertisers that give them money. That wasn't the goal. But to have freedom of press where they serve truth so that the people could be well informed. And then to make sure that things don't get too far sideways, we're going to give everybody not just the right, but the obligation of the Second Amendment. So what would you do? When your kids were illegally took from you, what do? Do you get distracted and talk about how they illegally took toenails and fingernails to prove your cleanliness? Do you talk about how they illegally took urine 2 times? Do you talk about how they legally required you to pay $40 an hour to be graded as a parent, even though you were the stay-at-home housewife? Do you get distracted and do you talk about how they used a picture from the viewpoint looking down the barrel of an open breech of a shotgun hanging on a wall up by a ceiling as the excuse for why you can't have the kids in that house? How about if you had a beautiful Burmese mountain dog and you took the cold floor air register vent out of the floor to vacuum up the dog hair, and the register being taken out of the floor, the cold register floor vent, you had to take it out to vacuum it? That was used as the reason why your house is unfit for kids. They didn't abuse me at one moment. They criminally abused me and my kids for years. And the subject that I keep coming back to is you illegally took my kids. You illegally took my kids. There's no law, there's no evidence. And you can't play pretend that there's some magical bubble somewhere here in Ohio or in Summit County or within the borders of the United States where your inalienable rights, your federal rights, and your state rights don't exist. That means from the police officers to the city that court and that crime was committed in, all the way through to state and federal agencies, all are empowered with enforcing this. Yet they don't. They don't. Think of it this way. There was a time where if a house was on fire, the fire department would show up and say, hey, that fire looks really bad, man. Looks like you're going to lose everything. You want to give us, how about you give us 2/3 of the money you have and we'll put out that fire? Would you pay? Family and divorce is a family that's on fire. It's not the time to extort. It's not the time to increase the burden and to abuse them more. There is a very good reason that Summit County places abused kids with their abuser 90% of the time. Because they don't follow any federal or state laws. Because they don't follow any procedure. They don't care about the burden of evidence. They don't care about any of that. They all want to pretend they're a hero and they're here to save you. And they use that as an excuse so that they can make more money and they can make their friends who give them money more money. And they won't be held accountable. At least that's what they've thought for 2 generations. 2 generations. So I ask you, the people, what do you think I should do? My kids, for 1,398 days, have been criminally abused. Not just because they're being denied any access to me, not because they just were illegally took from me, not because just because of parental alienation, complete, but they're being criminally abused. 3 years, my daughter's reading hasn't advanced at all. You got any suggestions? Because I'm getting really tired of hearing how there's this magical bubble where none of your rights apply. Thanks for your time. Know you're loved.